Welcome back to my channel. As always, I hope you're doing absolutely amazing. And on this episode of Truckin It, I'm going to discuss skidding. Just what should you do if a skid starts happening, and what can you do to prevent it? So stay tuned. And welcome back. I'm Zach Bell, the host of Truckin It, and today I had a near miss because I was cruising down Interstate 30 on my way home, and I was about to the town of Rockwall when suddenly, first my drive tire started losing traction, and then the dude in front of me started spinning out. So I want to tell you what he did right in order to get himself to safety, and what I did to prevent myself from getting into certain disaster. So I'll start off with a couple of tips here. Number one, whenever it starts raining or any other form of precipitation starts happening and you've got to start using the wipers, that's the time to turn on your headlights manually. Daytime running lights do not illuminate your back end, and when you get caught in the water spray of a big truck, that can lead to disaster. Then, number two, slow down. The lesson the driver in front of me learned was that he was going too fast for conditions for his tires to clear the water off the pavement. When rain starts falling lightly, an oil slick and some other stuff start forming on the pavement. All those leaves and that moisture produce a thin layer, and if your vehicle does not have good tires on it in particular, you can have a problem with that thin layer of water. Ultimately, that results in a skid if you do not take action beforehand. So, what to do if it starts raining heavily? Well, here again, you run into another situation entirely. If it starts raining heavily, then you have the problem of what many people call hydroplaning or aquaplaning, depending on what country you live in. Because tires can only channel a certain amount of water away from them before they start to lose traction. And then when you start hydroplaning or aquaplaning, then things can get real nasty real quick. So, let me discuss some skids here. You've got the sideways skid, you've got the power skid, and you've got the braking skid. There's additional skids that apply to tractor trailer rigs as well. The jackknife, the trailer axle skid, and the overcorrection. Now, in all of those situations, it's either too much on the gas, too much on the brake, or too much steering, and it causes your back end or your front end to lose traction. So what do you do if you get caught up in a skid like that Fusion driver did today? Here's where he did the right thing. First, you really don't want to have a damn device in your hand. That's right, your phone needs to be put away, because you need both hands for this. you want to look where you want to go. If your car is skidding to the right, for example, you want to turn your wheel to the right and steer it as if you're trying to get to that safe place on the side of the road. If you turn your wheel to the left in that situation, you'll end up in a spin out, which is a deadly situation. Your sideways skid will become a 360-degree turn. And unless you're practicing on your donuts, this could spell the end for you. Another type of skid that occurs is the power skid. It simply means you're putting too much accelerator in. And that's the type of skid that I had happen to me also. Now in my case, my vehicle was tracking straight. So when that type of skid occurs, you just want to ease out on the accelerator and then reapply it once you get out of it. This type of skid will also trigger your traction control warning light. It's labeled TC on your dashboard, or it looks like a skidding vehicle. A braking skid is by far the most preventable. Because if you're skidding due to hard braking, you're going to need to input steering, and you're also going to need to let off the brakes a little bit. Now, us old school drivers like me, we were taught a technique called pumping years ago, where you reapply and release the brake pedal repeatedly to stop that kind of a skid. Today's vehicles feature an anti-skid system known as anti-lock braking, or ABS. On those vehicles, like my Tundra for instance, you want to squeeze and hold. That is, squeeze the pedal down to the threshold and then just hold it there while you steer. Or some people call this the stomp and steer technique. Because the anti-lock system will kick in when it senses the wheels are about to lock up. You may feel a pulsation or hear strange noises when this is happening. This is normal. Because it means that your brakes are doing their job and that the pedal is pumping itself at a speed up to 15 times per second. While you hold your foot firmly on the pedal. Yeah, gotta love modern technology. Especially since the system's been around since the early 1980s. And on some cars, even the late 1970s. So, what are some things you can do now to avoid getting into that situation? Let's first discuss speed. The number one cause of these spinouts and skids and crashes is driving too fast for conditions. Simply slowing down, especially in a place here like this state called Texas, will help you tremendously. Especially when the water starts ponding on the pavement and you're starting to lose that visibility. This does not mean you have to put your four-ways on or have to do some other distracting activities. It just simply means you need to let off the accelerator enough so that you regain your visibility and can see what's going on in front of you. And here's another great idea. Once I got out of my truck hub and got into my Tundra and on my way home, I encountered a sudden downpour. And I noticed visibility was dropping quick. I was getting kind of hungry at the same time, so I just pulled into the Sonic, got under the awning, and grabbed myself a chili dog once I parked my vehicle. That's right. Having that safe place in mind will ultimately prevent an incident. So if you get caught in a sudden downpour and you're thinking about sheltering under an overpass, let's find a safer place to do that. Go to that Sonic. Go to that drive-thru. Go to that gas station. Just go somewhere where you know you will be safe, instead of hiding under an overpass. And here's another practical tip. When the wipers are on, turn your headlights on. It's usually a knob to the left of or right by your steering wheel. And on Toyota vehicles, it's labeled DRL off, auto, park, and on. You want that switch in the on position whenever it's raining. Just don't forget to turn it back to auto or to DRL off when you're done driving. On other vehicles, it may show a headlight icon, or it may even be activated by your voice command system, depending on how much tech you got in your vehicle. I do note that on some models of Ford Tauruses, for example, that the headlight switch, if you can't find it, it might be activated by your sync system. Yeah, cars are getting that fancy these days. Whereas on most of the vehicles I've been driving, it's just a simple round knob, or it's a knob on the end of the turn signal stalk. Check your owner's manual for details on where the switch is located. Another thing that can help you, in fact another two things that can help you when you're driving in wet weather, are to turn your wipers on, make sure they're not streaking, and there's a little knob in the center of your gauge cluster or in the center of your dashboard somewhere, or maybe it's a push button depending on how fancy your car is, and it looks like a little windshield with up arrows. This is called your defroster. And no matter you're using it on a cold winter morning or you're driving in the rain and need to clear your windows quick, putting your switch in that position will greatly improve your visibility. That's a little life hack for you. When the precipitation starts getting really bad and your windows start fogging up. So, let's be safe out there on the roads. And if it's wet outside, slow down. Turn your lights on. Then once your wipers and stuff are all going, and by stuff I mean your defroster and your if necessary, your heat and your other controls, then you may have a safe trip in the rain or snow or even on ice. I'm Zach Bell, this is Truckin It. Let's make your best trip your next trip. Bye for now.